Hello and welcome to NOV Live International. I'm Michael Gaines, host of the podcast NOV Today, and glad you're joining us for this segment of our continuing coverage throughout this week on technology across our industry and bringing in experts and subject matter experts to talk about that and how that applies in various areas around the world. So in today's segment, we're going to be talking about rotary steerable technology and bringing in NOV's subject matter expert, Kirby Wedewer, to talk more about developments in that area, as well as talk some specifics on the technology and applications. So it should be a good conversation. And speaking of conversation, if you want to be a part of today's program and have your questions be answered and provided to our subject matter expert, we're going to bring in Shelby Dumaine, who will tell you how you can do that. Hey, Shelby.
Hey, Michael. So the great thing about this being live is that we will be taking questions from you at home, the audience. So if you're on LinkedIn, Facebook, or YouTube, you can comment any questions in the comment section below. And I'll be there live throughout the show going through comments, and we're going to get to as many questions as we can.
Okay, great. Thanks, Shelby. Yeah, definitely put in your questions, and we are excited to have those to be a part of our program. So as I mentioned just a moment ago, we're talking about rotary steerable technology, which is a space, especially in the oil and gas industry, that has seen tremendous growth and innovation. And that's certainly been the case here at NOV. And to kick us off and maybe set the stage for what rotary steerable technology is and how it works, we're going to bring in Kirby Wedewer, who is the product line director for rotary steerable systems. So, hey, Kirby, thanks for joining us.
Good morning, Michael. Just wanted to say what a pleasure it is to be with you here today. I think it's a rite of passage for anybody at NOV to be interviewed by Michael Gaines, the voice.
Well, it's the pleasure's all mine. But I think our audience is absolutely more interested to see you. But I appreciate the compliment. So maybe we'll just jump in, Kirby. So I know there might be folks that are in the industry or watching that might not be a part of the industry that have heard the phrase rotary steerable system, and it might just be a buzzword for them. So for those that aren't familiar, just to set the table, can you explain, what is a rotary steerable system? Why do companies use them? And maybe we can start talking about our primary focus, which is the Vector Zeal and Vector Exact technologies.
Sure. I can give some overall applications, maybe some advantages and capabilities of RSS systems. Let's start with applications. Generally, RSS tools are used in wells with tight directional windows or where high accuracy is required. Often the tools are used where moderate doglegs are required to build a curve, and in horizontal wells where improved cuttings removal is required. Some of the advantages for Vector Zeal and Vector Exact, the biggest advantage is we've got a completely integral MWD and LWD measurement within the Vector Zeal and Vector Exact. Near bit inclination, azimuth, and gamma ray measurements are taken from sensors that are 4 to 5 feet from the bit. And it's on a non-rotating housing. So it's survey quality data. That's important to note. This data is used with both Zeal and Exact to provide closed loop autonomous drilling that offers both inclination and azimuth hold for autonomous drilling. So capabilities, Vector Zeal has an 8 degree per 30 meter dogleg capability. And it has standard near bit measurements, as I mentioned. Downlink confirmation is accomplished with full two-way communication. Downlinks are performed with using a flow diversion skid, and uplinks are received via mud pulse telemetry and a pressure transducer.
So for those that are just joining, I'm looking at the comments. I see some that have just joined us. So we're talking with Kirby Wedewer, who is the product line director for rotary steerable systems, and we are talking about the Vector Zeal rotary system as well as other technologies. So Kirby, wanted to maybe kind of shift our conversation a little bit. I know that just kind of like, you know, any tool that you use, there's no one size fits all, and that's the case in, you know, our personal lives as well as when we're looking at rotary steerable technology as well. So can you talk about how we've looked at that concept and how we're approaching it from a rotary steerable standpoint?
Right. So within the business unit here, we've got 3 rotary steerable offerings. And as you said, it's not a one-size-fits-all approach. We'll start with Vector Exact. Vector Exact is our high-accuracy vertical drilling tool. It's an RSS system used for vertical control in performance drilling applications. And by the way, any of the systems I'm talking about here are all able to run with a motor, so motorized RSS for performance drilling applications. Vector Zeal is the second one. Vector Zeal is our advanced rotary steerable system used for drilling complex trajectories with full 3D capability. And again, it's got the integral MWD and LWD measurements near bit, 4 to 5 feet from the bit, and survey quality measurements near bit. So that's important for Vector Zeal. Now, Vector Edge, lastly, Vector Edge, it's our simple, reliable rotary steerable system. It's being tailor-made for the unconventional market here in North America. The Vector Edge NXT, as we've labeled it, it's currently undergoing some pre-commercial testing with customers here in the US. However, my focus here today is going to be on Vector Zeal and Vector Exact.
Okay, so yeah, and maybe to that point, maybe let's dive in a little bit more on Vector Zeal. So specifically there with the rotary steerable, there, how does Vector Zeal steer and even more so control tool face?
Right. So steering and tool face is very important for a rotary steerable system. Both Vector Zeal and Vector Exact are push-to-bit systems. Tool face control is established within a non-rotating housing. You can see this sleeve or non-rotating housing in the looping video. That sleeve contains the steering pads that enable the tool to steer. This sleeve is decoupled from the rest of the collar, and it's held stationary with pads that push against the borehole wall. All directional sensors and gamma ray sensors are housed within that geostationary sleeve. This allows Vector Zeal to drill autonomously in both inclination hold or azimuth hold modes by using a closed loop control system. The tools can then make automatic adjustments on the fly to wellbore trajectory.
So when we're looking at working with our customers, because that's obviously what we want to do. Their success is certainly shared success. We want to be an enabler, enable them to achieve their operational and business objectives. So when we're looking at this, and I'm kind of thinking from a rotary steerable standpoint, how do we look at that, and how do we approach really supporting and enabling customers from a rotary steerable solution standpoint?
Yeah, it's all about enablement. This is where we at DDT within NOV, we differentiate ourselves from maybe some of the other RSS providers, especially in the international markets. Our aim is to enable independent directional drilling companies to provide services that perhaps they normally wouldn't be able to provide, like RSS or higher tier LWD. So there's a handful of RSS providers that are doing something similar here in North America, and NOV certainly does that in North America as well. But I think internationally is where we are truly able to differentiate and show the most success for NOV. We're successful mostly because of NOV's global footprint. So we're positioned differently within the rotary steerable space, and this centers around that enabling business model that we're discussing, mostly for international customers. And the key here is, a promise that, we won't compete in that space. NOV does not want to become a traditional directional drilling company, but rather take a more innovative route and focus on the manufacture, R&D, and distribution of this technology. Those are the things NOV is good at.
Right, right.
So the real key here is, just to wrap it up, our RSS offerings allow independent directional drilling companies the ability to compete for higher tier business. In the past, perhaps those independent international companies may have lost work because they couldn't tender for rotary steerable systems, or perhaps they were even precluded from bidding in the first place. So
right.
that summarizes the model.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're going to go ahead and start to transition over to getting some of the questions coming in. I'm looking over my secondary monitor here and see some really good conversation happening in LinkedIn and YouTube and Facebook. So we're going to go ahead and bring Shelby Dumaine in, our social media manager, to start getting some of those questions over for Kirby. And before we do that, just a reminder, go ahead and put your questions in. Shelby is in the comments right now, so we'll be sure to try to get to as many questions as we can. All right, so Shelby, what are some of the questions that we're starting to get in?
Hey, Michael. So there's actually been some good conversation in the comments. People are asking if there's any other applications outside of oil and gas for RSS.
Yeah, there is actually. We've got a number of applications that we've done within the mining industry. Some raise bore drilling. If the audience is somewhat familiar with raise bore drilling procedures in the mining industry, Vector Exact is a tool that we use to drill a vertical pilot hole for raise boring. Precise verticality is an important feature for raise boring. So that industry is something we're familiar with. And we've also got some exciting new opportunities that are popping up every day. I just received an opportunity on my desk last week from the hydroelectric industry. So I won't get into the details, but it's exciting.
Yeah, no, sounds good. All right, let's go on and go to our next question.
Mm-hmm. Yes, we have a couple people asking what bit is used for this technology.
So we're very flexible with the type of bit that we use with rotary steerable systems. Like most systems or most BHAs, you need to optimize drill bit selection based on some other factors other than just the rotary steerable system. I would say we prefer something with a moderate gauge length, 3 to 4 inches, but other than that, we're not very prescriptive in drill bit design.
Okay. I know that we're getting some additional questions coming in. Before we get to those, I wanted to maybe circle around with you, Kirby. One of the important things on developing technology certainly is getting some field-proven miles on it, if you will. So I know you briefly mentioned some of the worldwide case studies earlier in your opening remarks. Could you talk a little bit more about how the Vector Zeal, Vector Exact, or the Vector, really the Vector Zeal, I know we're talking about. Can we talk about maybe some of those case studies that we've had?
Sure, Michael. As I mentioned in the introduction, we've got a number of case studies that we're excited about. Throughout 2019 and in 2020, we expanded the rotary steerable offering worldwide, and we now have experience on all 6 inhabited continents. That other continent, Antarctica, well, nobody drills for oil there. The 6th continent that we conquered was just recently, and that was Australia. We finished a well there that showed some particularly good directional control with Vector Zeal 600. Very proud of that. That, I may add, was against some very stiff competition during a customer-held trial for rotary steerable suppliers. So that case study, by the way, is available on my LinkedIn page and on NOV's website as well. Mexico has been a hotspot in the industry for the last year or so. Happy to say that we're there and participating with Vector Zeal. We recently finished up 2 wells for a Mexican independent directional driller. Those case studies can be seen on my LinkedIn page as well, or on the NOV website.
All right. So let's go ahead and get some more of the questions coming in on social. What do we have, Shelby?
All right, this one comes from Shankar on LinkedIn. They're wondering, is the MWD, or measurement while drilling, and LWD, logging while drilling, is that data pushed back to the office in real time?
Yes, it is. We process the data at location, and it is sent back to wherever it needs to be. Not a problem. Real time.
Great.
Awesome. And then we have another one. Can you give a little bit of insight on the algorithm used for that closed loop?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that, Shelby? The algorithm used in the closed loop?
Yeah, they're wondering if it's logics-based, physics-based, or a combination of physics and machine learning.
So, okay, I'll talk about continuous inclination, and that's really the basis for any closed loop drilling scenario. Continuous or automatic hold inclination, or hold azimuth for that matter. The capability enhances the automated steering mode and enables continuous directional measurement. The automated steering mode is enabled by downhole trajectory control algorithms. And they make frequent small adjustments to the RSS steering parameters. The tool then compares near bit measurements. I talked about those 4 or 5 feet from the bit, and the continuous survey data that it's gathering, and it compares that with the downlinked parameters, your desired direction, your target. These continuous measurements then allow the trajectory following algorithm of the RSS to drill the lateral sections more precisely and autonomously.
No, that's some really good insight there. And yeah, to your point, I know that there's been quite a bit of time, effort, and research into ensuring that that these tools are able to operate in that fashion. So thanks for that explanation, Kirby. So I wanted to maybe kind of start looking a little more down the horizon, Kirby. I know that you've got a lot of things that are working in the pipeline, and I'm not going to ask you to spill all the beans, but to the degree to which we can talk about it today, could you maybe give us a little insight as to what's coming down? I know that Vector Zeal and Vector Exact are getting some facelifts, so to speak. Can we talk a little bit about those upgrades?
Sure, I can give you an update. So let me just jog back a little bit with Vector Zeal and Vector Exact. We acquired the technology in 2017 from Smart Drilling. Now, since acquisition, NOV's applied some rapid and comprehensive review of the technology that's ultimately culminated in some improvements and upgrades. And that sort of takes us to where we are today. The result of this culmination is the Mark II. The designation will be Vector Zeal Mark II, Vector Exact Mark II. So we're working on a formal marketing campaign and a product launch for both Vector Zeal and Vector Exact Mark II in H2 2020.
Okay.
So regarding the upgrades, what is Mark II? We're most excited about some of the LWD upgrades. We now have the ability to integrate resistivity and provide full azimuthal gamma in the Mark II. This plays to my previous comments on enablement. International directional drilling companies now have the ability to compete for some higher end, higher tier LWD business. Functionally, the Mark II tools, they'll feature redesigned steering ribs that are more streamlined. These ribs reduce the non-rotating contact area with the wellbore. Telemetry, the telemetry system is now fully configurable, and we have simplified operations. namely with a new drill out mode that can be used for drilling out casing shoes or used while reaming.
So, I know that we had some folks in the comments asking, who is the manufacturer for Vector Zeal and other tools, and I think I know we're glad to say that's NOV.
It is NOV now. The legacy acquisition was from Smart Drilling in 2017, and there is a long history with Smart Drilling, which I won't get into here, but it's been around a while.
Sure. Okay, good. Looks like we've got some good questions. And again, just a reminder for those that may have joined us in the last few minutes, we're talking to Kirby Wedewer, who is talking about some of our rotary steerable technologies. He is the product line director for rotary steerable systems here at NOV. So if you have a question for him on rotary steerable technologies, or specifically around Vector Zeal, we're happy to talk to that, and you can put your question in the comments section on Facebook, LinkedIn, or YouTube. All right, so we're going to go ahead and bring Shelby back in and get some more of those questions answered. These are really good. All right, Shelby, what do we have?
Sure. So Humberto on LinkedIn is wondering if optical fiber would be needed.
Wow, not currently. Perhaps in the future, as the whole autonomous drilling space takes over. Perhaps we'll get there one day, but currently, no. Everything that we do is mud pulse telemetry.
Mm-hmm.
So currently, no.
Yeah, things change rapidly, and I don't have a good crystal ball in front of me. If I did, I'd probably be in an island far off somewhere. So yeah, to your point, we can't predict the future, but that's good insight, Kirby.
Great. And we have another one also on LinkedIn. What temperature are the tools, sensors, and electronics subjected to, and at its worst, and how's that affect it?
So it varies. Both Vector Zeal and Vector Exact are rated to 150 C or 300 Fahrenheit. Those are the max specifications. It really does vary by geography and formation and so on. But those are the tools maximums.
Right. So can you talk about when we're looking at some of the higher end features available with the rotary steerable systems? Could you maybe talk a little more about reservoir navigation? I know that there's some folks interested in that, and maybe some of the advancements on the LWD side.
Yeah, no, it's a big deal for us. As I mentioned, Mark II's BHAs. Now we can integrate resistivity and provide full azimuthal gamma. Resistivity comes to us by integrating our NOV's Toltec SPR tool. SPR stands for symmetric propagation resistivity. We integrate the SPR into a Vector Zeal BHA. So the SPR creates high quality resistivity logs with both phase and attenuation measurements in real time. It also provides measurement capabilities with multiple depths of investigation. So, again, I'll get back to enablement. This higher level service combined with RSS was typically only available from the big three or the big four international service companies. Now, with our help, this service is available to any independent directional driller. So I'd like to briefly mention a recent case history or a success story in Russia. We recently had our first pre-Mark II run with the integrated resistivity and RSS. The run finished up last week. We ran 4 3/4 Vector Zeal 400 with our SPR 400 in this application. The run was 5,000 feet in length, and it was successful from a logging standpoint. That case study is sort of hot off the press, so it hasn't been posted yet, but the audience in the future can look for it in the usual places.
Great. All right, so comments are still coming in, so we're going to see if we can't shift over again to Shelby and and see if we can't rapid fire some of these for you.
Sure. So we have one also coming from LinkedIn. Has it been field tested for cement plug sidetrack? And if so, how was the performance? If you can speak to that.
Yes, we've tested it with coming off cement plugs and open hole as well. Cement plugs, to my way of thinking, are a little bit easier, in fact, a little bit easier, in fact, than open hole. Maybe that's obvious, but the case study in Australia that I brought up earlier, that was a real good testament to some open hole sidetracks and Vector Zeal's ability to handle open hole sidetracks. So, yeah, we've got some case histories sidetracking many different ways, and all successful.
Mm-hmm. And kind of, I think, going along with this, you mentioned open hole. So Christian on LinkedIn, he was wondering if you could speak about the reliability of, he said specifically 6 3/4 in open hole and 6 1/4. Also open hole. Sorry,
say again, Shelby, reliability in some specific hole sizes?
Yeah, 6 3/4 and 6 1/4 open hole.
Right. Well, I won't break down, reliability numbers by tool size here on the call,
Sure.
But let me just talk about it generally. Vector Zeal generally, Vector Zeal, Vector Exact. We've got an MTBF, or mean time between failure, of over 1,400 hours currently. Now, so here's the caveat with that. We have over 500,000 feet recorded with Vector Zeal and Vector Exact, but those numbers are from our rental fleet only, and it represents rental footage since the 2017 acquisition of Smart Drilling. Now, if you think about the business model that we've been discussing, a lot of it, especially prior to acquisition, was purely sales, not rental. So most times when you sell a tool, you lose visibility of its run history. So in reality, the footage is much higher than 500,000, and the MTBF data set is much larger than perhaps we give the tool credit for. So I hope that helps.
Yeah, no, thanks. That's really good. All right, Shelby, it looks like we got another question on deck.
Yeah, we're getting a lot of really great questions. We had several about if it works with like a Grant Prico wired drill pipe, or any other if it integrates with other MWDs, or kind of what the integrations are there.
Right. So integration with wired pipe, that's something we've sort of got on the radar. That's something we can test quite easily with the means that we have here at NOV. RDTC, and so on. With regard to MWD, LWD, so MWD, there's really no need to integrate anything else. We have an integral MWD. But as far as LWD measurements go, we can run other LWD measurements. Doesn't necessarily have to come from NOV. We have sort of organized and reworked our telemetry schemes to allow for an LWD mode that enables us to run other LWD systems, and then have that system be able to communicate without interference with our communication protocols. So yes, we can run other LWD.
So I wanted to follow up with you on looking at some of the research and development that has gone into these Rotary Steerable tools. I know that really the amount of effort and teams coming together to develop this, it's no small feat. So for those that are curious, I know I usually am always interested to know. Okay, give me a little bit behind the scenes in terms of how you got here. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Right. That's a great question. And, if you follow the evolution of Mark II in particular, Vector Zeal, Vector Exact Mark II, the improvements post-acquisition for Vector Zeal and Vector Exact were made at NOV's Research and Development Test Center I alluded to RDTC in the previous question as well. RDTC is a facility which NOV uses to test and develop new products in a safe, controlled, non-hydrocarbon producing environment. It features a fully operational drilling rig, and it's situated here in Texas at Navasota. This type of testing increases the speed to market timeline, especially in the case of Mark II. A lot of these features just wouldn't have been possible without a test rig like we have. It also obviously reduces some of the costs involved with developing new equipment. And probably most importantly, a facility like that, a testing procedure like that, reduces customer exposure to new products failures. It essentially delivers market-proven and tested products a lot quicker. So Mark II is a good example of this.
Yeah.
Smart Drilling had been developing Exact and Zeal for well over a decade with really limited international exposure. So they've got Smart Drilling, as I said, it's got a long history unto themselves. I won't get into it here, but with the Vector Zeal, Vector Exact, I think really it highlights one of the NOV's overall strengths as a company. That's to obtain a good technology through acquisition and then tweak it for current market conditions, and then leverage NOV's global footprint to market and then enable our customers.
That sounds like a good segue to our probably our last question for this segment. So we're going to go ahead and bring Shelby in to round it out for us.
Mm-hmm. Thanks, Michael. And I did want to say before I ask, there were a lot of really awesome, very technical questions, and we are still going to get to as many of those as we can post-show. But like Michael said, due to time, we're going to take this last question. And this comes from Jose on LinkedIn. He was wondering what markets this will be available in and where we can see that headed.
Right. So as I said earlier, we're on all 6 continents now. We've got case histories. And we've got the ability to provide tools, both rental or sales, internationally, all 4 corners of the world. We've got a rental fleet that is growing, and we're able to do both. So rental or sales anywhere in the world.
Great. No, that's good to hear. And I know for those that they're asking, and again, saw those in the comments as well, sounds like we are ready, willing, and able to support those operations as we can. So for those that did have some questions that we weren't able to get to, Kirby is a guy that is always ready to engage with you. So if you have a question that maybe you put in the chat that we weren't able to get to, just simply copy and paste that into a quick email, and you can email Kirby. It's on the screen at kirby.wedewer 2 at NOV.com, and I'm sure he and the rest of the team will be more than happy to engage with you there. So again, that's going to be Kirby.Wedewer, WEDEWER 2 at NOV.com. And yeah, go ahead and engage with them there. I'm sure, Kirby, you'll be able to talk with them more about some of the case histories that we've discussed, as well as some of the performance, the research and development, and things of that nature. So that'll definitely be a good opportunity. So Kirby Wedewer, the product line director for Rotary Steerable Systems here at NOV, talking about Vector Zeal and other technologies that we had in our Rotary Steerable offering. So Kirby, thanks so much for the time and the perspective.
Thanks, Michael. It was my pleasure.
All right, and thank you for joining us today as we talked to Kirby. In just a little bit, we're going to come back at 11 o'clock U.S. Central or 5 p.m. UTC to talk about the Grant Prideco Delta offering, and that's going to be with our subject matter expert, Russ Moncrief. So that'll definitely be a conversation worth listening to and participating in, as we definitely appreciate you being a part of today's broadcast. So for all of us here at NOV, thanks for tuning in to this conversation in our ongoing coverage here at NOV Live International. And we'll see you in just a little bit for a conversation on the Grant Prideco Delta product offering. Till then, we'll talk to you later. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you later.